This week's episode of I Was a Teenage Film Snob is not brought to you by Lawrence Morpheus Fishbone. Welcome to I Was a Teenage Film Snob. I'm James Chalmers, your friendly neighborhood film snob. And it is the end of the world as we know it, to quote a famous band. I was going to look up the guy's name. I didn't, and now I feel a bit silly. We are continuing our deep dive on the apocalypse and all things post-apocalyptic and end-of-the-world oriented. We've had a couple of killer shows up front, so I'm really excited for tonight's episode because this week's guest is a talker. He's my go-to whenever I want to talk film, and always has a lot to say and some really wonderful insights. So please welcome back, for the first time in a while, Nick Owen. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you, James. Great to be back on your amazing podcast. It has been a while, hasn't it? I mean, we did the big spectacular with all of the guests, but then I can't actually remember the last individual episode I did.
Yeah, well,
a few months now. Right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, people are like, "Oh, episode 50 was only a few weeks ago," but we recorded those part one we recorded back in like February, and part two we recorded, I want to say 3 weeks before it dropped. If I had to hazard a guess, I don't think you had an episode in the 40s at all. I think your last episode was episode 30 something, but I can look it up because that is what we do on this show. From time to time, we look things up.
And while you're doing that, how are you surviving this frosty Melbourne winter? I have to say,
it is cold.
It's bloody cold. I think since we started the 50th episode spectacular, which we recorded over a couple of nights, I moved and I'm now up in Northgate in an old drafty house, and it gets really cold in the evening. So yeah. I feel for anyone who's also living through this as well.
Well, I was telling you the riveting story of how we were trying to, save money and keep the house warm before we recorded. It's not for podcasting, not because it's inappropriate. It's just not interesting. Your last appearance was episode 41, Rush Owen, when you talk about your 90s films.
Oh, that's right, 90s.
That was back in March.
Yeah. Okay.
And we would have recorded it the week before, so it was probably February the last time you were on the show at solo.
Oh, so hopefully I've still got it.
You don't have the record for the longest gap. The longest gap, I think, at this stage is my dad. His last episode was before October of last year. So, yeah.
Yep, hopefully I still remember how to speak.
Yeah, just use your experience as someone who talks in your day-to-day life.
I think you've still got the comedy.
If my jokes aren't good, it's because I was on another podcast earlier today, and I think I used all my good jokes there. I should have saved them for my show instead of their show, but it is what it is. How are you, my friend? Did I ask you that?
Well, we kind of covered it anyway, but yeah, good, cold, just getting through winter as best I can. We were just talking about how hard it is. Now we're going to just pivot into like a life point, but like how hard it is to get motivated in winter, get to go out and do your exercises and those kinds of things, and it is tough.
It's crazy. Like, it's so much easier for me to get down to the donut store 3 times a week than to the gym. Yeah. And the amount of time I spend out at the shops probably would equate the amount of time doing a workout. But I can't take Zoe with me to the gym. That's the only thing. So
that is
true. I could work out at home or cook something healthy. But I'm like, if I can't get to the gym today, I better go and get donuts, because it's always a battle of good versus evil, and good very rarely triumphs, unfortunately.
Yeah. This is the way.
That is a show that I am behind on. I am so far behind on all my Star Wars stuff. I haven't watched any Star Wars stuff in ages.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, like I kind of go through ebbs and flows in the last sort of few months. I don't know if it's just because I've gotten out of the habit of starting and finishing movies. I reckon I've started a few movies that I haven't sort of followed through with, but I'm in a very, I know it's probably the wrong podcast to admit something like that.
Yeah, this isn't. I was a teenage quitter of movies.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a dumb joke.
Now I'm going to try and finish a point after that. But I was going to say that I've been I've been in a TV mode lately, so
Nice.
watching a few. Currently in the middle of a few cool shows. So I think I probably mentioned when I was watching season 1 of Yellow Jackets on the podcast, would have probably been last year, but the season 2's just come out, so I banked that whole season. So I'm trying to work through my way through that now.
Nice one.
And there's a great new show on Apple. I think it's on Apple, called Silo, which I'm going to assume is based on a book series. It's just got that vibe, but
I've heard people talk about it. But I don't have Apple, which is a shame because that means I haven't watched season 3 of Ted Lasso yet either. So I'm a bit behind on that one. But I'm looking forward to it. I haven't been in a TV mood for a while. We keep, I criticize you for starting and not finishing films, but that's exactly what we've been like with TV shows this year. Like, we just can't get through anything. We started Barry, which I loved. I really enjoyed Barry. We watched 4 episodes, haven't gone back to it. We started watching House of the Dragon. I hope we go back to that because I've been really digging it. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was really well crafted. I think that's, to be honest, the luxury that HBO have is that they kind of know. I think it was crafted and it starts quite slowly because I think they know they don't have to hook people. It's such a massive bit of IP, that kind of Game of Thrones universe. And I really enjoyed it. The fact that so you said you're 4 episodes in?
Yeah. So I know a few things. We haven't got to the big time jump yet. So I know that's coming up. I think there's one more episode of that because the last thing that we saw, I think, was the first real incest part of the show. Because I said to Tina, I was like, it's Game of Thrones, they're Targaryens. Someone, there's family members are crossing paths soon. It's going to happen. So that was the first. I wish that wasn't the bookmark I could use to refer to. I'm like, oh, we're up to the incest part. Sadly, but the show, like, I don't know why I was so skeptical for the longest time because I was like, didn't feel burned by Game of Thrones the way a lot of other people did. Like, I liked the last season. Like, sure, like it kind of rushed a lot of things towards the end. I wasn't like 100% satisfied with some of the decisions made. I wasn't like, and now my life is ruined. I can never watch this show again. Like, it was fine. But for whatever reason, I just kind of lost faith, I guess, a little bit in the storytelling. I was like, we've just had 8 seasons. Do we need a spin-off so soon? But I should have known all they had to do was be better than season 8 and I would be happy. And that just means simplifying your storytelling, which is what they've done. It's also been really refreshing to see a nice king. I was saying to Ted, I'm like, man, like, it's going to suck when this guy eventually dies because Game of Thrones was going to die. I'm like, but it's really nice. The King Viserys is such a kind king, which we haven't really seen in any of Game of Thrones. To see like a genuine person on the throne. So that's been a lovely change as well.
Yeah. And
you were saying before that your partner, she's not really into the violent stuff. So maybe just show the Viserys scenes from House of the Dragon,
like Game of Thrones kindness cut. It goes for 3 minutes for the whole 8 seasons or something. I'm trying to think of one kind. Was there any kindness in Game of Thrones? Because it was such an awful.
Well, Tommen is quite kind, but he doesn't have a lot of power. Joffrey's brother.
Yeah. And then he just jumps out of a window, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He makes a sticky in. And is it Marjorie? Who's the Tyrell? Is it Marjorie Tyrell? I haven't watched in so long.
Yeah.
Like, she's quite kind, but she has very limited power in the show. And things don't go well for her or her many husbands, but she's quite kind.
Maybe the dude who is like the assassin who trains Arya.
The one in the first season, the one who's like, what do we say to death? Not today.
Yeah,
I was just thinking of him as well.
He's a pretty nice chap, yeah.
The Hound, clearly.
Yeah, but that's he's very damaged as a person.
He uses some salty language.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite use of swearing in that show. It always comes from the Hound.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But most people, most characters aren't too kind.
Sam Tarly, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sam's quite kind. There's a really great.
So imagine
moment.
that. So imagine just a cut of Game of Thrones where it's only Sam Tarly, Tommen, and the assassin guy.
I can't
Those are the 3 characters.
Yeah. And Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say all three of them, you don't really know who they are, but Sam and Tom get a bit of screen time. But yeah, I've been digging that, so I hopefully we'll get back to that one. And I haven't started Secret Invasion yet, but I'm very excited to give that a whirl.
Of course, yeah. Look, I've got enough shows kind of banked up that I don't really watch anything week to week, so I won't be watching that for a little bit.
There's only 6, I think, for this one. I think it's only 6 episodes. So
yeah, that's good. But yeah, I'm keen to hear. I actually don't know anyone who's caught the first episode, so I'm sort of waiting to hear how it is.
It is shocking that we've gone almost a week and I haven't watched it yet. Like the night it came out, I was recording. And then, I don't know, and then Friday I went to the movies. Did I go to the movies on Friday? No, that was the Friday before. I don't know, just for whatever reason, every night I've had something on, and we just haven't had a chance to. And the nights we have been free, it's just been too. Friday was the last day of school, and Tina was like, "I just don't even want to think. I just want to watch mindless stuff." I was like, "Done and done." So that's kind of where we've been with that. But yeah, Secret Invasion, I'm really looking forward to. And from all accounts, it sounds like it's pretty good show. Like people seem to be digging it. So I think people are digging Nick Fury, having him back in a more leading role, and he gets quite vulnerable apparently in the show as well, which is something we don't really see from Nick Fury. So I'm keen for it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But and have you been watching many movies? You were kind of saying before you've been doing your kind of halvesies. Halvesies? No, holesies. We've been rewatching The Office as well. The other day I was like, I'm just in the mood to watch something fun. I'm like, you know what? I haven't watched in about a year, The Office. I've been popping that on. So I think we're about halfway through season 4 at the moment. But
yeah,
it's just always good. Always good. The Office is the most
ever reliable, isn't it? Yeah. And I think as well, it's like a nice warm hug, isn't it? When you just start that first season, you just hear the ambient sounds of The Office.
But we actually I skipped season 1. Not just I was like I just want to go straight into the Jim and Pam of it all. So
yeah.
And that moment at the end of season 3 when he asked her out, still works. I've seen that sequence more than so many times, more than I can count. And when she says yes and starts smiling and with the tears, still works. It's insane how good that 3 seconds of TV is.
Yeah, and I would also argue that the sort of tension on the casino night episode also never gets old as well.
So good. I'm gonna drop a deuce on everybody.
But movies that I've got not a very good finishing rate here. So I did start the new Ant-Man actually. And I made the fatal mistake of just starting it too late in the evening, so I didn't really get through much of it, and I just haven't sort of found the time to go back. Which I can't actually recall. Did you give that a positive review?
I liked it a lot. I know I'm in the minority. A lot of people were kind of disappointed by it. I think they were hoping because it kicks off Phase 5 and introduces the big villain for this phase or whatever, this kind of saga. I think they were hoping for more, and I think everyone forgot that it's an Ant-Man movie. They're not you're not going to see Avengers level stuff in an Ant-Man film. It's not going to happen. But all I wanted was a story about Scott and Cassie. Something that really resonated with me even before I was a dad was the idea that Scott lost 5 years of his daughter's life by being stuck in the quantum realm. So I was like, oh my God, I just want to hear all this. I just want all the father-daughter stuff. And so within the first few minutes, it was ticking all those boxes for me. So anything after that was gravy for me. So I really enjoyed it. I know a lot of people didn't like the way MODOK was handled because he's kind of played more humorous than evil. But I also think MODOK's a really tricky character to execute in a live action film. I would say harder than Thanos even because he's so bizarre. And I enjoyed all the comedic beats. We're doing multiverse, so you can do a vicious MODOK still. We can still get that version if people want it. But I was happy. I was happy with the product. I'm not going to go in taking an Ant-Man film too seriously, and judging it too critically because it's meant to be fun and silly. It's meant to be kind of a breather after all the heavy stuff.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point about expectations there, and I think though that Marvel were just knocking them out of the park on the individual franchises to the extent where I think we almost got spoiled, and then that's kind of in those middle phases of the Infinity War saga. Is that what it's called? Yeah,
The Infinity Saga, yeah.
Infinity Saga. You had individual Iron Man films, the Captain America films, and just among a few others that were just so good as standalone films. Like I'd go back and watch I could go watch Captain America 2 without any context and just have a great time. And so I think that when you do have a film that, potentially doesn't quite live up to that, that level of payoff, and I think you're right. There's probably an overcorrection on the criticism.
But I also think because people they've lost their way. They haven't. They haven't lost their way. If you go back and really look at those phases, they had about a 50% strike rate. Everyone's like, oh, the golden age of Marvel. Every movie was perfect. No, people hated Iron Man 2. People hated Iron Man 3. People hated Captain America, the first Avenger. People hated Avengers Age of
Thor
Ultron.
2.
People hated Thor the Dark World. People hated so many of those. Phase 3 was pretty strong. That one, there was really no criticism to Phase 3 at all. But Phase 1 and 2, had their misses. Not for me, I loved all of it, but people complained about everything.
Yeah.
And it's because that's over now, it's a new phase. They're like, oh, they're idolizing, they're immortalizing as if it was putting on a pedestal that doesn't exist. The last episode that just came out of the show, I was talking to Josh about this, and I was going through the whole I don't know if you've seen it on the online, but people are like, nobody asked for this. We're all the nerds and the toxic fans are like, no one asked for this movie. Why are you giving us this movie? And so I was going into that whole idea, and how you just can't satisfy the audience and stuff, which is just be happy. Can you believe? Think about this. Can you imagine we ever would have got an Ant-Man film, let alone 3? And then the third one, they brought in Kang the Conqueror and MODOK. That's ridiculous. But they did it.
I think as well, it's a good perspective to have. And I think as well is just take a step back. We've gone from 2001 to 2005 is the kind of that real birth of this modern era of the superhero film, and you've got the Spider-Man trilogy, which is just it brings in maybe a villain in each one from the Spider-Man universe, and that's fine. And then the Marvel Cinematic Universe kicks off, and not only do we have great individual stories being told, but then they cross over, which is just so unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there probably was a Justice League film beforehand. I don't know.
No, there wasn't. No, animated, sure, but no live action.
Yeah.
No.
So you get this crossover, and then if you're not happy with the multiverse storytelling, where you can have a film that has, 3 different Spider-Men from 3 different franchises in it. That's exactly. Just relax, okay?
And the other thing is, and it's all about these rose-tinted glasses. People are like, the Tobey Maguire films were perfect. People hated 3. People roasted 3 so hard. There's a reason there's no Spider-Man 4, because people didn't like 3. I liked 3. It was the first movie I ever took Tina to. That was our first date, was Spider-Man 3. I loved that film. But people just, they remember they remember it differently than the way it was. Same with Andrew Garfield. People hated both of those films. At the end of the first one, most people were like, well, we'll probably get a better villain next time. That was the most consistent review I heard about Amazing Spider-Man. Well, they'll probably do a better villain. That's not a good review. And then when they did Electro and everything, people hated it. There's a reason why there's not an Amazing Spider-Man 3. Those franchises didn't do well. I still like them. But it's just funny. When I came out of Rise of Electro, I was like, oh my God, that was great. Electro was cool. Green Goblin was cool. Gwen Stacy got killed. The Sinister Six are coming. I was so ecstatic. And then when they canceled that franchise, I was like, oh man, now we have to get through all of this again. But you know what this show is. This show is just me being positive about everything, and that's the way I felt about all of them. I love 2003 Daredevil, but they never made a sequel to that either. It's I think the audience has become spoiled and has become and that's not me saying everyone, but it just feels like everyone, the expectations are getting so high. The only problem I had with Marvel in the last couple of years is I think they focused too hard on the TV side of things. I think this became too much content. If you're gonna drop 3 to 4 films a year, you can't have 4 or 5 TV shows coming out. There's just too much content. Like
that would be my criticism, because I don't participate in the shows. It's just I literally don't have the capacity to just keep track of that many different storylines. And I think Marvel, 3 films a year is the perfect amount for me. You see a film and you're so high. Like, I remember back in the glory days of the Marvel experience, when you'd go see like Guardians 2, which would be so sick, and then you'd be hanging around in the cinema for the spoilers, for the post-credit scene, and then you'd walk out there thinking, shit, how am I going to wait? How am I supposed to wait for another 4 or 5 months till the next film comes out? But I think you can have too much of a good thing, and I think it dilutes. Well, I can speak personally. That kind of dilutes my enjoyment of it.
It was a lot, and like, I can be like perfectly honest. Like, I've gone back and rewatched. I haven't rewatched any Marvel films this year, but last year before Doctor Strange, I redid the entire MCU saga. But I skipped the shows. I was like, I like them, but I don't want to commit to like 6 hours. Like, and every show spun something off. Like WandaVision, they were like, oh, we're doing Vision Quest and we're doing Agatha Coven of Chaos. I'm like, oh, okay. So is there another WandaVision as well? Because that's now 3 shows. And then like Falcon and the Winter Soldier didn't spin off anything, but that's going to tie into Captain America 4, which I'm really excited about. Harrison Ford, coming into Captain America film, I'm quite cool with. But then Hawkeye, they're like, oh, there's an Echo show. Like, just really, every time a show came out, there was like more shows coming. I'm like, no, there's too many shows. Yeah. There's too many shows. Like, I would still be happy with no shows. Like, I don't need the shows. Like, the Marvel Netflix era has come and gone. It was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. But, the only show I really go back and rewatch periodically is Daredevil. But as much as I like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage and even Iron Fist, I liked Iron Fist as well. I'm not going to go back and rewatch them because that's like 30 like hour-long episodes per season. And there's like 5 shows. It's just like, oh yeah, and Punisher. So there's Punisher as well. Like, so 6 shows if you include Defenders. So it was just became too much for me. But that's it. I wouldn't even say it's a misstep. I think it was a swing. They're like, look, we've got this medium. Why don't we try it? And, I'm glad they did try it. I never thought we'd get a She-Hulk show or any of the shows that we did get. But now I'm ready just to go back to the cinematic universe. And just, that being said, I will see Secret Invasion. I am excited for that. And I'm excited for Daredevil Born Again, which comes out next year, I think.
Is that Charlie Cox?
Charlie Cox, Vincent D'Onofrio. I think a lot of the cast is back, but they had to recast Vanessa. I can't remember who they announced, but it's not going to be the woman who played Vanessa previously, which is a shame because she was quite good.
Is she Elektra?
No, Vanessa is Fisk's wife, the art dealer.
Oh, yes.
She also plays Kal-El's mum in Man of Steel.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was a
3 seconds that she's in that
reference.
Movie. I love that movie so much.
Is it just me, or like I'd still love a Jor-El spin-off movie?
Yeah, I'd be cool with that. I just love that Russell Crowe is just in the business of playing every superhero or supervillain's dad. Like, he's now, I don't know if you saw the Kraven trailer, but he plays Kraven's dad as well. So it's Man of Steel, it's Thor, and it's Kraven. He's in just playing superhero dads. So I'm cool with that. I'll let you have your drink, sorry. Before we recorded, and we'll start talking about your lists and stuff soon, because I know we're on a bit of a schedule today. But you said you had some questions about The Flash. So yeah, I went and saw The Flash last couple of weeks ago. Well,
I know we sort of exchanged text messages about this, and you were saying that you thought you could understand some of the criticism, but you thought it was generally better than the scuttlebutt out there. But I really enjoyed it straight from you. And I know you were saying you've done a review on it, but I just sort of thought I'd like to just get a few key points from you about what you thought of it, because I've heard at the same time that it's one of the best superhero movies ever made, and also it's not so good. So
I don't think it's one of the best superhero films ever made. It definitely feels like more of a final chapter in the DC EU as opposed to setting up the new one, because that's what they were saying it was going to do originally, was like they're going to close down the old and open the new. The way that the film goes, it doesn't really feel like it's setting up anything new. It just kind of feels like it's closing it down. We've still got Aquaman, I think, coming out later this year, which I think will be the last of the old guard. And then Blue Beetle is the first chapter in the new James Gunn run universe. But James Gunn had nothing to do with Blue Beetle, but he wants to keep that character involved, which is kind of cool. So I really enjoyed it. Obviously, when I did my review, I said this is good. Like, I promise you, this is real. My three favorite DC characters are the Flash, Batman, and Supergirl. So it did feel like the movie was made for me. Like, those are the three characters in that film. It's really fun. I can understand the criticism of the CGI, but the thing is, the director came out and said, like, oh, the CGI that looks weird, that's deliberate because we kind of did this whole Barry's point of view in the Speed Force and how that would look different to normalize. And when I saw the film, I'm like, that feels like a convenient excuse, except that it just lines up with every moment that happens in the film. So it could be deliberate, because there are times when the CGI is excellent. Like, there's some really great CGI in there as well. So I don't think you can make a movie with really good CGI and also terrible CGI unless it's on purpose. I just don't think that's...
Yeah, so the CGI that's copying the criticism now, stress I haven't seen The Flash yet, on a scale from, flawless, like, Avengers level CGI to, like, The Matrix Reloaded.
People have compared it to Polar Express, and I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it does look very cartoony and very rigid, but again, like, the only times it is like that is in those scenes where he is in the Speed Force and running really fast. So it does kind of line up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it just feels like a weird swing and just didn't quite work. But it didn't take me out of the film. I wasn't like, well, this is garbage, I can't watch the rest of this. But yeah, it's really fun. The beginning of the film is a bit silly, maybe a bit too silly for my liking, but I understand they're trying to set the tone, be like, this isn't like, it feels like almost like apologetically, this isn't Batman vs Superman. Like, that's like, it feels like every DC film since that has been trying to tell us that it's not Batman vs Superman. We're like, no, we know. We like Batman vs Superman. So you don't need to make it too light. But no, it does kind of find its footing pretty quickly. Ezra Miller's fantastic. So good in the flick. You've seen the trailers for The Flash?
I have.
Cool. So then, it's not a spoiler, that there are two Barry Allens in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so the only spoiler I'd say is that one of them is the present day one, and the other one's about 18-year-old Barry. 18-year-old Barry is my favorite character. Like, Ezra does such a good job playing, like, young and kind of selfish and infantile and just, like, inexperienced. It's a really real pleasure to watch. Affleck's in it for about 15 minutes, I think, but the 15 minutes we get of him is great. He's really good. There is a surprise cameo before all the time travel stuff, which I won't spoil for you, but it was really fun to see that character show up. Keaton's great. There's one, without giving too much away, we get to see Keaton's Batman fight. And it's nice to see that with the current technology we have available and stun people, we get to see more of what that Batman should be able to do. Because my biggest criticism of the old Batman films, those old 80s and 90s ones, is that we were really limited by the stunt choreography and the technology of our time. So you don't really get a Batman who could fight. So now you get a Michael Keaton Batman who can fight, which is kind of cool.
I am really looking forward to that. I'm a big fan of the first one. Second one, I can kind of like take or leave a little bit.
Returns?
But like, yeah. Is that the one with
Penguin and Catwoman? Yeah.
Pfeiffer? Yeah.
It's a weird flick. Like, I like it, but it's weird.
It is. Danny DeVito's he's swinging for the fences in that one.
Yeah, everyone's like, man, like, we've never had a penguin like that since then. I'm like, yeah, because he's not meant to be a monster. Like, just because Tim Burton likes monsters doesn't mean all the characters have to be. But yeah, it's a weird film, but it's enjoyable.
So I'm really looking forward to that. And look, I have heard that there might be another cameo, another variant of that character as well, towards the end of the film as well.
I won't say anything. But there are quite a few cameos. But it's done in a way, like, it's not like every 5 minutes a different DC character pops up. I'll say that. Like, it's not like that. It's kind of it's done in a specific way. But I liked it. Like, I know that one, that that received quite a few criticisms. Well, I liked that. It was really great to see Michael Shannon back as Zod. Like, he's in the trailers. That's not a spoiler. But the standout, the standout for me is Sasha Calle as Supergirl. Like, so great. As I said, I'm a huge Supergirl fan as it is. Like, I think I own more Batman, Flash, and Supergirl comics than just about anything else in my collection. I've always loved Supergirl as a character. I like her more than Superman, because even though I don't think Superman's a boring character, I know a lot of people are like, oh, how do you write for Jesus? Like, because he's like perfect, whatever. I don't find Superman like that. Man has still proved he can be flawed and interesting. But the idea of Supergirl is that when she was sent off from Krypton, she was a teenager. So like, Clark is, or Cal is a baby, and then is shaped by the loveliest people on Earth. Whereas Supergirl, she's already got a personality. She's going through her teenage years, and then she has to like kind of deal with becoming a teenager and growing up, whilst also getting all these Kryptonian powers. And to me, I'm like, that's more interesting, because she's going to be more flawed. She doesn't have the chance to she's already kind of set in her way. She already kind of has a personality. So Supergirl is often a little bit darker, a little bit more violent, a little bit more moody and stuff like that, which I really like. And in this one, like, this is a Supergirl who wants revenge for being imprisoned, for however many years. Again, that's all in the trailer, so that's not a spoiler either. Which I loved. My biggest criticism of Supergirl is there wasn't enough of her. And she's in it a lot, but I was like, you could have just made this a Flash Supergirl movie, and I would have been so happy.
Yeah.
And they are making a Supergirl movie, so I hope it's still her. If not, like, look, I'll get over it. I'm sure I'll love it regardless. But she was brilliant. She was really, really fun.
And who played Supergirl in this?
Sasha Calle. I think she's I don't know what. I think she's a Spanish actress. Maybe, I'm not 100% sure. But I think she's done a few Spanish films and stuff like that. If I'm wrong, I apologize to people listening. I don't have the data in front of me, but she's wonderful. Yeah, she's really good.
She was born in Boston, Massachusetts.
Oh, there you go. Way wrong. Like, couldn't have been more wrong. Like, she was departed.
I feel bad about having to correct you so hard, but
that's well, no, because I thought I'd seen interviews, because a lot of cause I follow her on Instagram, and a lot of her posts are in. I want to say Spanish, but maybe it's just in Boston now. Just a Bostonian.
I will say, in your defense, she's a Spanishy type looking person. It's quite dark features and stuff like that. So,
but she does do a lot of her posts are bilingual, so that's why I thought maybe she was Spanish. Yeah, I don't know, but she's great. She's great. No, she's really good. So, and the flick gets dark, like for a Flash film, the Flash is no stranger to having dark storylines and stuff like that, but he tends to be one of the more upbeat, brighter characters that his, comics and shows tend to be a bit more fun. But they managed to kind of find a really good balance between that darkness and, kind of the joy of that character. So, if you can look past the CGI, I think it's quite a fun movie. Like, is it the best DC film? No, but, I can't believe we got, just like, how we got 3 Ant-Man films. I can't believe we got a Flash film that has 2 Flashes and, multiple Batman. It's like, it's great. Like, it's, so I enjoyed it. But, if you're not sure, just wait till streaming or physical media or whatever. But it's long. It's like 2.5, I think. So there's a bit of chunk of time there. But at the same time, it flew pretty quickly for me. It never felt slow or boring.
Yeah.
I imagine the film you're getting most geared up for would be MI7, if I have to imagine.
Yes, that. And do you know, when's the release date for that? Because I'm trying to think what's first, Oppenheimer?
Well, I think it's the week before Oppenheimer, because I read an article today that Tom Cruise is furious at IMAX because they're bumping Mission Impossible out of the IMAX theaters a week later to accommodate Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Tom Cruise, who I love, but like, if I think Oppenheimer...
no, they're like saying, I guess his thing was like, why can't you have us on one screen? Like, why does it have to be? Because obviously, I think IMAX in the States, they have multiple screens in their IMAX theaters. So it's like, why can't you save at least like 1 or 2 screens for us and have the Oppenheimer on the rest? And the guy was like, well, Chris Nolan uses all of our equipment, always shoots in IMAX, and we want to, kind of thank him. But, when Oppenheimer's done, we can put Mission Impossible back on. But I don't think he liked that comment very much.
No, I doubt he did. Yeah, but it's going to be a good couple of months for movies. Well, we were just saying before, like, the first 6 months of the year, I haven't really been to the cinema much. There hasn't been a whole lot that's come out, and I've sort of thought, well, I have to see that while it's out of the movies. But we've got MI7 Part
Mm-hmm.
1.
Part one,
And then Oppenheimer, and on the same day as Oppenheimer is the new Barbie film as well,
which
which I'm sure
looks great. It
I'll be
looks
seeing at the
really.
cinema.
Sorry.
I'm sure I'll be seeing that at the cinema too.
It looks really good. Like, it looks really fun, and it does look. It does have a bit of a darkness to it. Like, it looks kind of twisted. That's Greta Gerwig. Like, she's a great filmmaker. Um, yeah, it looks like a really fun movie. And then what else have we got coming out? We got a few releases ahead of us still. Um,
What else is coming out this year?
we've got the Marvels coming out at the end of the year, which I'm really excited for. Theatrical debut of Miss Marvel. She had her own show, but which I really liked, but I'm really looking forward to seeing her on the big screen. We've got Aquaman, which apparently is meant to have Ben Affleck Batman in it as well, so hopefully he's still in that one. Those are our only superhero films, but I think there's a few more things coming out. There's at least one more movie
I
coming out
was
before the end of the year.
really interested to actually see that there's a new comedy film, which I think is being released at cinemas, which I think is like worth noting because I don't think that happens very often these days. With a massive name attached, Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, yeah, I think it's just come out. I can't remember what it's called at the moment. No Hard Feelings, but apparently it's doing quite well.
Yeah, I just thought it's probably worth just commenting just how rare it is to see like a studio comedy get released in cinemas. It just feels like all comedies have, over the past kind of like 3 or 4 years, have just moved to it's a streaming service product now.
I think it's a post-COVID thing. I think, like, and we talked about this maybe the last time you were on, maybe the time before, about the future of cinema in a post-COVID world, and how we needed films like No Way Home. We needed films like Avatar. We needed films like Top Gun to get people, get the crowds back into the theaters. Like, those tentpole spectacle films get people back to the movies. And then now that we're kind of riding the ship, I think we can get some more of those comedies and stuff there. But yeah, I think we'll see more of that happening. We'll get more of those in there. Indiana Jones is out this week. That's a film that I'm going to go see.
Yeah.
I'm just having a look through the upcoming films to see if anything else huge. There's the new Wes Anderson film, Asteroid City. I haven't watched a lot of Wes Anderson stuff. I've seen maybe half of it, maybe a third of it, but he's a good director. And then there are a couple other little bits and pieces, but I'm just looking at IMDb, and they don't have a ton of stuff kind of listed between now and the end of the year. But it feels weird, for a while, every December we're getting a Star Wars film, and that's stopped happening now. So,
yeah, that's right.
Like, we had a 6-year stretch where every December you could count on a Marvel, a DC, and a Star Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Is Star Wars just purely doing the shows now?
No, I think they're taking a break so they can right the ship, because I think Taika Waititi's still got his Star Wars thing. I know James Mangold is still working on his Star Wars thing. I don't know if Kevin Feige is still doing a Star Wars thing. I think Patty Jenkins still has a Star Wars thing. So there's stuff. I just think they're taking their time, which isn't a bad thing. Even though I liked pretty much everything they did, of the saga stuff, the spin-offs I didn't care for so much. I didn't hate them. I just didn't do much for me. I didn't love Solo. I didn't love Rogue One. I didn't. What was the other spin-off they did? They did another spin-off, didn't they?
What do you say? Solo, Rogue One.
Rogue One. Was it just the two? I thought there was 3 spin-offs. I used to know everything about movies, and now I feel like I'm just losing my mind.
Was Donald Glover in? Did he play Lando in Solo?
In Solo, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Rogue One. Maybe it was just the 2.
Well, yeah, the thing, those were, I didn't mind the spin-offs. Rogue One, I think, stands up. I think that's great. But to me, with the trilogy, episodes 7 to 9, it really felt like they lost control of it. Like, the first one was a pretty safe product, like as you would expect from J.J. Abrams, who's just great at just delivering massive franchises, just like he did it with Star Trek as well. Just they're good films.
Yeah, great films. All 3 of those Star Trek films are great. I like all of them.
Yeah, and then the second one was edgier, making some decisions that were like pretty brave. The Ryan Johnson film,
I got to go back and watch it because I haven't seen it in cinemas. I remember when I first watched it, my review of Last Jedi was like, "Look, when it lands, it lands. Like it takes big swings, and when it hits those big swings, like it really works. But when it misses, it just feels like a missed opportunity." But I haven't seen it since then. I was a lot more snobby back then as well. I think the problem was they were like, "We're doing a new Star Wars trilogy, but we're not going to do a plan. With three different directors, they can just tell whatever story they want." And Ryan Johnson was like, "Oh, I can tell whatever story I want. Well, I'm killing Snoke. I'm
Yeah, that's
making
right.
I'm doing like these things that never happened to Star Wars film because I can do whatever I want." And then like, how do we fix
Well,
this? Like,
this is my point. Is that then I feel like they kind of lost control of the story in the second one, and then they tried to do a course correction in the third one, and then it's just got messy from there. It's like, crowbarring in like a Palpatine storyline. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just too. I don't dislike where it went and a lot of the things in it, but to me, that's just, the story wasn't told particularly well, I think.
it's funny. We were actually talking about this on the last episode. I was talking to Josh about this a little bit, and I was said that I didn't mind the Palpatine thing at all, and I really appreciated them putting it in the first 2 minutes. I think if it had been a twist, like surprise, he was the villain, I would have been really annoyed. But like they're like, just so you know, this is the movie. Like in the first 2 minutes, he's the bad guy. Like, all right, I now know what the experiences I'm about to get into. We can have a lovely time. And there's some pretty great stuff in there. Like I like all of them, but I got to go back and rewatch them. I've actually on my list of rewatches this year is the Star Wars franchise. So I want to go back and do all 11, 12, however many there are now, and watch them all again. But in due time, my friend. Should we talk about the end of the world? Should we talk about the apocalypse?
I think we should.
Now we bit of a different topic for the show. Obviously, not that we have solely done decades and stuff like that, but we every now and then we'll mix things up again. We did some horror stuff for Halloween, but I just thought we'd go in a bit of a different direction and something a little bit more unique. What's your feeling on apocalyptic films? Is it something you kind of seek out? Do you watch a lot of them, or do
It
you
is.
kind of leave them by the
It is.
wayside?
No, no. It is. It is one of my favorite genres. Actually, I think for a long time I've been really fascinated with the possibilities of a post-apocalyptic world. Like I'm really drawn to stories of like, and a lot of them that I'll talk about are probably like stories of like a nomadic kind of journey through like cities that are empty, countries. So like I think of something we can safely talk about without spoiling any lists is like the Last of Us TV show,
Still haven't watched it, but I'll get there.
Well, I love the game too, but just I'm really really drawn to that visual style of storytelling of like and the possibilities of going through like a deserted city that like nature's kind of taking over. Like I don't know if it's just the nosy part of me. My girlfriend would say I'm the nosiest person on earth because we just walk past houses and I just look in just to see what they look like.
Oh, I can't wait to sit down with her and have a chat about you. He is nosy, isn't he? Oh, so nosy.
But like, yeah, the thought of just, and I'd say as well, an example of this would be, what was it? Was it Station 11? It was a show that came out last year.
Okay.
And they were like holed up in someone's sort of penthouse apartment. Just that style of storytelling is really, really appealing to me. And you get that through, I guess you've got the different mechanisms to trigger that. Like I was sort of doing a bit of research on what really post-apocalyptic means, and I guess you've got your natural resource type of sorry, I think someone's knocking at my door.
You got your like talking about the apocalypse. I was like, hey,
yeah,
no,
stop
enough
being
of that.
nosy. You've got like your post-apocalyptic style where it's like the world's run out of like a certain resource, like maybe a Mad Max type of scenario.
Definitely got talked about in a couple of episodes ago. It was on my list, Mad Max. So.
Yeah, you've got like a virus kind of like you've got a zombie. So
yeah.
Yeah,
it's a really broad topic, which I really liked, and we kept it loose with this. I was like, look, if the world is even vaguely like, it can be aliens, it can be monsters, it can be virus, doesn't really matter. Like, let's keep it nice and broad so everyone can talk about something. You go?
Sorry. Yep. I was just texting someone I was just like my housemate to be like, is there someone outside?
But I was talking to Maddie about this in the first episode, and I was like, it's interesting because we have this fascination with it, but we kind of did go through. I mean, we didn't go through an apocalypse, but we came pretty close during those lockdowns. Like, we got, I think, as close as we've ever been before, which is, cities were empty. There was no one on the streets. Like, nature did come back a little bit. Like, they were saying that in all the built up cities, like the air was the cleanest it had been in years because there was no regular pollution of cars and stuff like that. And the idea of like kind of solitude and isolation and kind of I'm not saying like it was the end of the world, but it was maybe the closest we've ever come to something like that before.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like I was actually having a conversation with someone the other day, actually. Oh, don't know who, but anyway, I was talking about Contagion, which is a Steven Soderbergh film from about 10 or 15 years ago now.
2011,
really great.
I think it was. With is it Marion Cotillard in that one?
Yeah, it's actually just got a really great cast. It's Matt Damon's in it, Kate Winslet, and Lawrence Morpheus Fishburne is in it as well.
LMF, that's what they call him.
Thank you for going with me on that. I kind of feel like it becomes evident to anyone listening when our podcasts tick over a certain time in the evening because we start doing absolute shit.
I mean, like you're talking to the guy who coined the term cradboard, and then it just became, and that's something we've never talked about on the show before. But like, it is as dumb as it sounds. Like, I just rearranged the letters of the word cardboard to see if Nick would laugh, and it struck gold to the point where it comes up in almost every conversation we've ever had.
10 years later, the word cradboard still sets us off.
So dumb. But that was like in the middle of the day at work, so like I don't think it's got anything to do with the time of the day. I think it's got to do with the relationship that we have, which is I'm going to say something dumb and you're going to laugh. You're going to coin a phrase and I'm going to adopt it immediately. Like, yeah, and these are the initials for it.
It's because you're very agile. You're a very agile thinker. You can go with the flow.
Thank you. I try to be. When it strikes, it strikes. When it doesn't, it's an absolute mess. But I do try to be quick.
But yeah, I think my point with Contagion was just how sort of prophetic those kind of films can be, and it's scary. I mean, you were talking about how we almost went through something like that. Well, Contagion, which was a really scary rewatch during the pandemic. You've got it was
and
really
a lot of people
accurate.
did. A lot of people watched it during the pandemic. I was like, no, that would be like me watching, like Sully on a flight or like United 93. Like, why? Or Final Destination. Like, why would I do that? Like, watching Jaws on a cruise ship. I'm like, no thanks. Like,
or watching Independence Day if aliens ever fly in and hover over our cities.
That's yeah, absolutely.
Just as valid as your ones.
They're all valid. There's nothing invalid in this show.
But yeah, I mean, have I missed any of the sort of mechanisms that can trigger those sort of post-apocalyptic?
I guess natural disasters. So like your super volcanoes and superstorms and stuff like that. And then of course like Satan, like demons and like kind of like the that's the thing. I think we touched on aliens already. But yeah, like because there have been a couple of solid alien ones in the last couple of years, and yeah, like there's a nice variety, and like obviously depending on the type of apocalypse film it is, like depends on the enjoyment factor. Like, is it like a wacky, like is it a Roland Emmerich style, like kind of wacky superstorm movie, or is it something a little bit darker? And like the problem with this topic is it can get very depressing if you load it up with too many of those really serious ones.
Yeah,
but even like to a certain extent, superhero films. Like a lot of these superhero films are constantly on the edge of apocalypse. no pun for that X-Men flick. But yeah, like there's like without the threat of global crisis, like those films are less exciting and stuff. So I'm really excited to hear your list. I feel like we're going to get a very different list from what I've had so far. From all the guests, everyone's lists have been great. Actually, there hasn't been a bad list among them. There never really is. But I'm very keen to hear what's on your list. So, Nick, what's number 5 on your apocalyptic films list?
Well, number 5 is the film Oblivion.
Excellent.
Starring Thomas Cruise and Olga Kurylenko. That's how you say her name, and also Morgan Freeman, who does not appear
never seen
immediately in the
Oblivion,
film.
but the title suggests dark times ahead.
Yeah, so it's actually, I think it sort of got lost because it was released. I'm not actually certain if it was the same year, but it might have been 1 year before another Tom Cruise film, which I do not want to name because it may come up on my list again.
I think I know which one you're talking about, and if it's the one I'm thinking of, it's a brilliant film.
So Oblivion. So a brief synopsis, and I won't spoil too much. So Tom Cruise, he plays him and his, I think his wife. They live in this sort of like little unit in the sky, caretaking Earth, which has run out of resources. So mankind has moved to a different planet. So they're just overseeing some mining of resources or something like that. I haven't seen it recently enough to know exactly what their mission is. And
I guarantee you it's impossible.
That is brilliant. I would just log off now. I can't top that.
Thanks for listening to the show. We'll catch you next week.
But Tom Cruise sort of sneaks off to do these like solo missions down on the ground. I think he's he just sort of he's like the security caretaker, goes down, makes sure the machinery is working and those kinds of things. But as he sort of strays further and further afield, he sort of discovers a sort of underground civilization, and what he sort of discovers is not the status quo isn't as it seems, and that perhaps the sort of there's sort of a civilization there that he sort of aligns with, and I'm trying to just anyway, I'll leave it there. It's a really, really great film, but it fits firmly in the apocalyptic, like sort of visual language. You know, like you've got a lot of sort of a lot of greys, a lot of like desert scapes, those kinds of things. So visually stunning as well, and also great Tom Cruise.
I feel like like you talk about it kind of going under the radar. I feel like it came out around the same time as Elysium, the Matt Damon film. And for some reason, I always thought they were the same movie. I've never seen either of them, but like the poster was very similar. And then like a few years later, you got After Earth, which also has a very similar poster. And I feel like they're all about kind of the same thing. So I always got them confused. But
is After Earth the Will Smith one?
Will and Jaden Smith.
Yeah. Without having seen that, like I remember it coming out, it probably is really a similar type of story to that. So yeah.
But no, I think I remember the poster just being very simple. It's just him wearing like some sort of spacesuit, like helmet and holding a space gun or something. I was like, all right, cool. Like, that is the first time Oblivion has ever been mentioned on the podcast, and dare I say, probably the last time it'll be mentioned. Not because I don't think it's going to be a good film. I just don't think anyone's done that deeper dive on the Tom Cruise catalog, but I'll definitely check it out. Which brings us to number 4.
Number 4 is a film I can almost guarantee is probably going to be mentioned in every single episode here, but I just can't leave it out, such was my enjoyment. It is the John Krasinski directed A Quiet Place.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about when we talked about alien invasion films. It's only come up once so far. This is the second time.
Okay. It's such a fantastic film, obviously starring Emma Blunt and Johnny Krasinski, and I can't remember the other actors who plays There's
I
no
can't remember the
children.
children's name either. Yeah.
It's just such an incredible concept that these, and I love the different take on the aliens that have invaded Earth, that they pick up on even the slightest sound, so that the survivors have adapted by just living this quiet existence. They're not able to make any sound. Also, possibly one of the more heartbreaking starts to a film.
Yeah, I've seen that a few times. I've only watched it once since I became a dad, and it was tough. I was like, ugh, like, but my kid is exactly that kid. She was like, I don't care. Like, I want to play with this now. Like,
it's like a trauma sandwich, that film. Like, it starts with something awful and ends with something pretty awful as well. So that
great
is
final
honestly,
shot with her with the baby on her back and the shotgun. Like, that's pretty cool.
yes, true. And in fact, probably what that trauma sandwich. I still have not seen the second one. I haven't seen the sequel.
I've only seen it once, and we were talking about it on the show a couple of weeks ago with Maddie. And I was admittedly a bit distracted that night. I was doing a couple of things, so I wasn't able to kind of sit down and engage the way I would normally. But what I saw, I liked, but I just felt it wasn't. The first one's just so brilliant. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be hard work to kind of compare to that first one.
And great performances all over the film. Like Emily Blunt's always great. The acting she does when, I mean, you can just imagine how hard it would be to act this, is like having to basically like give birth while they're under assault from these things. So she has to do it quietly, and she steps on a nail.
The nail came up very early in the conversation as well. Like, that to me is like where I die. It's just like I wouldn't even have my foot all the way on the nail, and I'd just be like, like, just I have very soft, sensitive feet, so like just the tickle of it, I'd be like, that's it, come and get me now. And they build the tension with that nail so well, and it's just like, I remember when I was watching in the theater, I'm like, are they going to pay it off? Because sometimes they'll do that for you, and it's a misdirect, and like they can't keep building, then like it doesn't come back again. But like when it happened, like, but like I was talking to Maddie about it, and she's like, and I was telling a similar story, and she's like, oh, I've done that like so many times, and I was like, that's not cool or fun. That's really upsetting. And she was telling this story about how she stood on a nail once while wearing thongs, and the thong was nailed to her foot, and I was like, what's wrong with people?
What?
Yeah.
Oh my god, poor Maddie.
You gotta listen. If you ever want an entertaining yarn, you gotta listen to a Maddie episode. She this is actually the most serious she ever was. She's normally quite wacky and stuff, but like she takes apocalypse films very seriously. But she still told a crazy story about her getting nailed, nailing a thong to a flip flop for our American listeners. And when I say a thong, I mean the flip flop.
That's probably good to mention the distinction.
She nailed a bunch of lace around her toes.
But yeah, and also just worth mentioning as well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was John Krasinski's first film that he ever directed.
No, this came up last time as well. He had one film before he directed called The Hollers, which is like a family drama. It's wonderful. It's really great. It's like, it's him, Charlie Day, Anna Kendrick. It's a huge cast, and it's such a beautiful, like, fun, lovely family kind of dramedy. Reminded me a little bit of This Is Where I Leave You. Kind of similar tone, but lovely film. But
The Hollers, you say?
The Hollers, HOLLARS.
I'm just looking it up now, so riff for me for a minute.
It's a really great film. Like, that made me cry a bunch, which isn't really saying much because I cry in just about every film these days. I cried watching a horror movie these days. Sorry?
It's got Sharlto Copley in it, the guy from District 9 and
pretty much everything Neil Blomkamp has done. I think he's in just about all of them. Hardcore Henry he was in. Sharlto's done a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, there you go.
But so that was his first film, and that's why I watched it, because I was a huge...
Apologies to John Krasinski.
JK. Not Simmons, just JK. JK Krasinski.
J.K. Krasinski.
I don't know what his middle name is, but I'm just making it
It's Krasinski, actually, so...
John Krasinski. This is like JKK Tolkien. I'm mixing things up now. Hollis is great, but even watching like that movie and then going to The Quiet Place, to seeing the jump in quality. And not to say that Hollis is a bad film, but like the Hollis is the kind of film that like you would expect a first time director to make. It's indie. It's like just kind of like about a guy returning to his hometown and kind of dealing with family and love and stuff. And then to make A Quiet Place, which is so ambitious. I was comparing it to the jump between Jackie Brown and Kill Bill. Like both great films, but you look at Jackie Brown and like it's clearly made by Quentin Tarantino because you've seen the first two films he did, and then Kill Bill, you're like, what? He went away for like 7 years and became like a master at this. Like, what's going on? So yeah, but A Quiet Place is great. Like visually, it's awesome. I think it's a really good like the use of. I mean, obviously the use of sound had to be so important, but it is used so well and so effective. Yeah, it's really good. It's a really good flick.
As I said, like the only reason it's not a regular rewatch for me because I love, like, I'm all in on the sand walkways and like whatever the board game is where they've like dampened it, and I just love the world building of that stuff. But yeah, I just think sometimes it's a hard sell to just be like, I'm going to start a movie and within 5 minutes you got to just
It's one that I'll probably watch every couple of years, and that's not because it's a bad film. It's just it takes a lot out of you. Like it's a real emotional investment, and like the payout for your emotion. Like there's a lot of loss in that film. There's a lot of heartbreak in that film. And I don't know that I'm still trying to figure out like all these years later whether John spoilers for a 5-year-old film, 6-year-old film. I still don't know whether John Krasinski's character had to die. I still don't know if like it was done more for the spectacle and the kind of like the drama of the film, or whether he could have got his kids out without dying himself. I think there probably was a way to do it, but like it doesn't take away from the enjoyment of the film. But like that's a gut wrenching like last few minutes as well. Like
But anyway, that was my
good flick.
Yeah, that was what was that 4? What do we have?
That was 4. So we're at number 3.
Well, my number 3 film, I'm in shock that this film is 10 years old this year. If you had have asked me, I would have said it came out like 5 years ago at most. It is Edgar Wright's The World's End.
Yes, that was on my list as well.
Oh, sorry, James.
No, that's good. Like, to me, I think I said at the time, I was talking about it even on that podcast I went on today, I think it's Edgar Wright's most underrated film. It's the film no one talks about, but it's brilliant.
Yeah, the character work on Simon Pegg's character, Gary King.
They've all got like royal, like kind of knights surnames and stuff like that.
Yeah, is just unbelievable. And actually, I think Simon Pegg's unbelievable in the film. Like you can kind of see that there's something going on under the surface there. It's really good acting by him. But I think potentially it's probably the least, I mean, as you just said, the least kind of well received of that Cornetto trilogy. And I think following Hot Fuzz is a hard act.
Yes.
And it was a bit more serious and a bit more, like basically halfway through the film, you realize that this is the apocalypse. But I thought I'd just read out the cast here because this is pretty unbelievable.
So good.
Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, as you would expect. Then tier 2, not in terms of their quality, but in terms of like the sort of starring of the movie. Martin Freeman, Rosamund Pike, Thomas Law, I don't know who that is.
You got Paddy Considine. Who is Pierce brilliant. Brosnan. Yeah, Pierce Brosnan.
David Bradley.
Who's their other mate? There's 5 of them. Simon Pegg, Nick Frost. Oh, Eddie Marsan, who's great. Oh, to me, Nick Frost carries this film. Like, this to me is like, I feel like, I was talking about this a couple of weeks ago, but whenever you see Simon Pegg and Nick Frost together in these films, like, you immediately, I think, are attracted to Simon Pegg, because he's your lead and he's very charismatic. But Nick Frost delivers 3 so like vastly different performances in each of those films, And in this one, you get to see him be wounded, be kind of close. Like he's not playing like kind of a dunce, like in Ed in Shaun of the Dead is quite dumb, and and Danny in Hot Fuzz is lovable, but quite simple as well. But this is like a guy who has had a traumatic past, has had to make the tough decision to kind of cut certain friends out of his life, and then has to kind of stand up to him in the midst of this apocalypse. I think Nick Frost is so underrated as an actor. Like we always kind of see him as kind of like the sidekick, kind of the funny sidekick. But this film just shows what kind of chops he's got. He's so good in it.
So good. And also, you're always going to have me in if the film is like set at like, is it 12 pubs? Is
that the Golden Mile.
Yeah, the Golden Mile. Such a good premise for a film.
Yeah. And the last pub is called the World's End, and it's actually a chain in the UK. Because when we went to the UK a few years ago, Dean and I, we went to the World's End pub.
Oh, excellent! That's great. I didn't know that.
Had some great food and drinks. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's the film starts as a premise about like these. They're in their 40s, late 40s now, and they get called up by Gary King, who's played by Simon Pegg, to catch up, and what he wants to do is relive this glorious night they had doing the Golden Mile. And then halfway through this film, spoilers, is it aliens or is it kind of like some weird robots? Like
they're an intergalactic species who upgrade. They're kind of like a parasitic species that upgrade planets to make them part of a larger. I'm trying to think of the word. It's kind of like beyond Earth. Like most planets are part of like almost like a federation, and they're kind of they're on a higher functioning kind of society because they've all been upgraded and part of this kind of hive mind of robots or like tech or whatever. But Earth wasn't considered for the longest time, and then like spoilers for the film, Earth basically rejects them, and so we get to stay being kind of the dumb people that we are instead of being more advanced and stuff like that. I would say potentially Simon Pegg's most unlikable character as well.
Yeah,
like he's generally quite charming and generally quite lovable, and sometimes he's a bit of a buffoon and stuff, but he's generally quite lovable. And I like him in this, and he does have his moments, but like he's very selfish in this. Like his character's very selfish and very kind of driven by his own needs.
Definitely there's some rough edges to his character.
Yeah,
but there's also
I like. Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say there's also, you can tell, like that's what I think I'm really drawn to when I rewatch this film is just like I really enjoy, like from when like he first enters the movie that like there's some trauma going on under the surface there, and he's not. This isn't just a fun boys thing. He's like desperate to recapture a time in his life when he was the man. Gary King was the man.
Absolutely. Although every time I watch it, the more I watch it, I feel like I don't think Gary King ever was the man. I think it was very much like this picture he'd painted in his mind as a teenager, and over time he started to realize that like, oh, I wasn't the man then. I'm certainly not the man now. And I think it's something that I think I like that because it's something that we all kind of have to. Something we have to all come to terms with in a way. Like the older we get, the less the man we are, and maybe we never were to begin with. But I was just talking about Nick Frost, but obviously Simon Pegg as well. It's a real role reversal for them. Like they're kind of playing the opposite character they would normally play from each other. And I think it's a really interesting dynamic and really elevates the flick. Like just gives them more to work with, gives the audience more to engage with. And especially if you're a fan of Edgar Wright's film. Edgar Wright, by the way, still has never made a bad film ever. I think we're like 7 deep now and he's still like cranking them out, good films. But yeah, and that whole group, I think it's my favorite group in terms of the characters. Like I think like over time, like it was Shaun of the Dead, you kind of got this first group dynamic and like they work all right. Like, again, it's not bad, but like they kind of, some of them gel better than others. And then Hot Fuzz, you really get a great group dynamic. But I think the Five Boys and Rosamund Pike in this film is like the best executed of like that group dynamic in an Edgar Wright film thus far.
Yes.
As much as I love the police station and like all the different cops and stuff like that, I think there's just a few too many characters. So sometimes, like, you get like the guy who can't talk and has a dog translate for him. But if you took him out of the film, it wouldn't really ruin the film. Whereas if you lose one of the characters from that kind of core six in World's End, it changes that film altogether.
What about the absolutely bonkers mix of people in Shaun of the Dead? Like the group, it's like
the group
Dawn
crossover
from The Office, like Bernard Black,
yeah,
or Dylan Moran. Sorry, is Tamsin Gregg in that as well?
Yeah, so there's a moment towards the end where they're kind of trying to escape the town, and they come across another group, and all of their TV co-stars are there. So like Martin Freeman meets Dawn from The Office.
Yep.
You've got Tamsin Gregg and you've got Dylan Moran. You've got I can't remember the actress's name, but she was in Spaced opposite Simon Pegg. She was the love interest in that one. So they've all got someone that they starred with in a TV show, which is like a lovely little British Easter egg if you like UK TV stuff.
So yeah, that's my number 3. Great film. I think also showing that post-apocalyptic films don't always need to be as serious as the 2 that I'll talk about next.
It definitely has some darkness in it. Like I remember I put off watching The World's End for the longest time. I think I talked about this last time as well because my brother watched it and he was like, "Look," he goes, "it's good, but it's depressing." And I was going through some stuff when this came out. I was like, "I'm going to put it off." And then when I finally watched it, I'm like, "Oh, it's not depressing," but it does have some darkness to it. I think my favorite gag in the entire film, I think I talked about this last time as well, is Martin Freeman's character does get converted. I think he's one of the only ones that does get converted, and they knock the top of his head off. So at the end of the movie, he's just put a soccer ball on top and drawn eyes, and it's the funniest thing. It always cracks me up. It's just so ridiculous. Just like seeing him kind of taking people through houses and stuff like that. It's such a great visual gag. I wish there was more stuff like that. Well, that means there's only one question I need to ask you, Nick, and that is, who does number 2 work for? I'm never killing it. That bit's sticking around forever.
Do you know how happy it made me when, was it Gabby said that on the big spectacular?
I forgot about that. That's a 5.5-hour show if you put both episodes together, so there are lots of bits in it.
Yeah. Well, number 2 works for Will Smith, and that means I Am Legend.
Ooh, I haven't seen this since it came out.
Well, it came out in 2007, so it's getting old now.
Yeah, it's a teenager. It can almost drive a car, this movie.
It can, but I remember I saw this at the cinema. I was such a massive Will Smith fan, and this is just like to speak on Will Smith. This is such a massive swing for. I mean, it's hard to overstate that period of like Independence Day, which was about 1995, I think, through the Men in Black films, like Wild Wild West. So like 95 to about 2005, just he was the biggest, I don't know, maybe like along with like maybe like Tom Hanks maybe at the time, Tom Cruise as well probably, biggest movie star. And then just for the massive swing of being like, you are just going to see me on the screen by myself for 2 hours, is pretty audacious, but I do really enjoy it as a film. And this falls into the plague kills off mankind category of post-apocalypse.
And are they vampires in it? I can't remember. Are they like
they're
like
there's a zombie
radiation people?
They're like I would say the closest. They're a cousin to World War Z zombies, I would say.
Okay.
Like pretty agile.
Seen World War Z, so I've got to watch that one as well. But
okay, yeah. But basically, the majority of the population has been killed off by this plague, and are these zombie type of people who I can't remember the rules of this universe, but they can't be out in the daylight. So
yeah, that's why I think because I watched it on DVD or maybe VHS when I watched it with Tina, and she was like, "It's a vampire movie." I was like, "Oh, cool," because I knew, and she was saying that based on they couldn't go out in the sun. But then I think I figured out that they weren't vampires. but yeah, I've only seen it the one time, and that was when it came out. So it's definitely well overdue for a rewatch. But I remember enjoying it, and I loved the big swing you mentioned of just like one actor, particularly someone with that kind of star status, by themselves on screen for 2 hours. Like, yeah.
But yeah, just such a great performance by Will Smith, and he's got a little dog for company, so that's headed for tragedy.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the formative movies of this genre. Like I would have been 17 or 18 when I went and saw this, and just the sort of.
I think it's 2007. I would have been 19. Oh yeah, that makes sense. You were in 17, 18. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry for correcting you.
No, that's okay. But yeah, so I, the possibilities of this, of New York being empty of people and just being, I mean, obviously it's the backdrop of this movie is horrific, but as I said at the start, that really appeals to me, that type of storytelling where there's an empty city like New York, and he could just like fang it at like 100 kilometers an hour through the streets and stuff like that. So yeah, I think I would say one of the more like the modern tent pole of this genre, actually, like a real archetype of the genre.
I got to go back and rewatch it because I only remember bits and pieces. There are a couple of things. The one thing that stands out to me, and I don't know whether you've caught this in the times you've watched it, but this movie got released, I want to say, after Superman Returns, but before The Dark Knight. And there's an Easter egg in I Am Legend where there's a poster for a Batman Superman movie, and it used the logos of those two franchises because that was the plan. So Warner Bros. Were like, it's coming, and not in a post-apocalyptic universe. But then obviously the Superman Returns didn't pan out, and Bale did what he did. But yeah, I remember digging it quite a bit and remembering it being quite sad as well. It's interesting, I think, that you've got kind of what I would describe as kind of a blockbuster level movie, because I Am Legend, the marketing campaign was huge, but then to be actually such a small story, and you don't really see that anymore. Like, you wouldn't see the advertising or marketing campaign for a movie like of that scale for a movie that's actually quite small today. You wouldn't see that. It would probably end up getting like released on digital only, or that kind of thing. The way you talked about comedies before, or get a small release like something like Ex Machina, which I know is not the same kind of thing, but the idea of like 3 people in a room as opposed to a big cast, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's right. And I think there's probably only one, maybe 2 people in the industry now who I think movie studios would make a film where it's like, this is just, it's purely based on one person's star power. Like, I mean, so
TC?
much of, yeah, I would say so. I think most of what we see now is movies are guaranteed success because it's built on the back of so much IP and previous work done by previous films. So it's an interesting kind of moment in time of just like Will Smith just being so popular and so bankable that they could just basically make a film that was just him.
I reckon you could, and like you mentioned IP, so of course that kind of would lean into it. But I reckon you could make an I Am Legend style film. Like, I would love, I mean, not even you could. I would love to see I Am Legend, but like it's like an aged Peter Parker, or like you take the idea of Logan and put him in like an I Am Legend. I think that'd be a really cool concept as well.
Yeah,
which I guess Logan was to a certain extent, but there are a lot of characters in that movie for the film that it was.
Sorry, drinking my water.
Go for it. You gotta keep hydrated, especially in the apocalypse. So,
well, this is true. If you can get your hands on some water, that is.
Yeah, it's worth its weight in gold. Tell me something before we move on to your number one film. Well, I'm really interested to know what's your opinion on Will Smith these days in a post-slap world. How do you feel about Will Smith?
Look, not great. I don't think. How do I articulate this? I am from the school of violence is never the answer. So, like, while I won't comment on a joke in very poor taste at someone who has um, alopecia or what have you. That's just me, not like what Chris Rock did. But I don't think like you. I think a lot of the celebrities think that they're above. I don't mean above the law, but you can't assault someone like that and not get away with it, but and still thrive. Like there's consequences to that, and so no, I don't think. I'm sure he'll come back. I mean, Hollywood is just they love a comeback, and you just have to do your time. But yeah, I don't think I want to support Will Smith's movies for a little bit because I just don't. I think that was an awful thing to do as an awful look. Like showing people that like you can go and slap someone if they say something that you don't like. I don't think that's a great. Yeah, that's not. I don't think Chris Rock's joke was in very good taste. I think that was pretty uncalled for. But I think if Will Smith gets up there and uses, like he was the movie he won for was
it was the Selena Williams, Venus Williams one. Is it the one we played their dad?
Yeah. So
King Richard.
King Richard, thank you. Just trying to think of the name. He was there for King Richard, and I think instead of slapping someone, he got up there and talked about how he was playing someone who would just wanted to look after their family and made some point about that. I think that would have been a great poetic bit of like justice, but so I don't know. That's me talking a lot about. I don't know how to articulate it really.
No,
the
reason I ask is because I've struggled. Like, I don't mean like on an emotional level where I'm like, how will I survive without Will Smith? But I remember like after it happened, it didn't really kind of phase me in any way. And then I was showing Zoe some clips on YouTube, like some Disney clips. I'm like, oh, I'll show you the new Aladdin. And I got like a minute into like an Aladdin clip with Will Smith. I was like, I'm not really digging seeing him on the screen at the moment. And I was kind of shocked that I was affected in that way because I got no skin in the game. Do you know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, like regardless of what he did was right or wrong, it doesn't affect me on a personal level. But I just found that like the same way, and you can't lump him in with the likes of like a Harvey Weinstein or a Bill Cosby. But at the same time, I don't know what it was. It's like I just need to give Will Smith a bit of a break for a while. I think. And I still can't explain it because even though I'm not defending his actions, I don't know. I really struggle. But I was interested to hear your thoughts on it. Not to obviously sour your movie choice because I Am Legend is wonderful.
And it doesn't sound like he's given us so many wonderful movies and like such a unique. Like I was, as I said, like I was growing up as like kid to young adult in the era of like Independence Day, Men in Black, like
Men in Black's great.
So those kind of films. So like I was on board the Will Smith Express. Like he was just so charismatic, so funny, so believable in the action roles. Like pretty much the perfect movie star. But yeah, I just think you said it there. I'm just not that comfortable seeing him. I think I need a bit of a break. I need probably some more contrition and an apology.
Yeah, I think he's done a couple of apologies, but I was just I didn't mean to like take the show on a downer, but I was just really interested because I haven't really spoken to anyone about it because it kind of happened in a bubble like during kind of COVID and stuff, and then it just became the next meme for the longest time. But I was like, I never really got a chance to like really talk about it. So I was just interested, and because I know you do kind of look into these things a little bit more the way I do. Like not everyone on the show would look at it that way, and like that's fine. Like that's not the point of the show. But I was like, I'm really interested in hearing your thoughts on it, especially a couple of years later. But it feels like we're pretty much on the same page. So yeah. Oh, did I lose you for a second, Nick? Oh no, there you go. You are. You're back.
Yeah, and I wouldn't ever like think badly of someone who can separate the art from the person. Like I think there's heaps of examples of like, probably like music that I still listen to by someone who's probably got a bit of a dodgy past or something like that. So,
if anyone listens to Led Zeppelin, like they're, do you know what I mean? Like that's so.
Yeah. Like I definitely don't think that the correct answer is that Will Smith should be cancelled and stuff like that. But yeah, I think just for me, it's just sort of like, yeah, that was a bit. I think you need to do your time in the sin bin.
Yeah. And look, like you're right. Like everyone, Hollywood does have a comeback story, and everyone gets another chance. Like Mel Gibson's back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well,
like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so yeah, Will get his shot again, I'm sure. But yeah, interesting. All right. Well, then we're at it. We moved through your list quite quickly because we spent so much time talking about other stuff before. But what's number one on your apocalypse list? Your
Number one
apocalypse.
On my apocalypse, which is just fabulous, is another Tom Cruise film. I'm sure you've guessed what it is by now, James.
Is it EOT?
It is Edge of Tomorrow.
Yes.
Or Live, Die, Repeat, whatever the...
All you need is kill.
All you need is kill. Thank you. I would... Maybe you can look up when it was released for me because I didn't do my pre-research. 2014. And so when did I say Oblivion? Was that 2013?
I think you said.
So yeah. I obviously didn't want to mention this film when I was talking about Oblivion, but this was a very rich period, if you like, sci-fi starring Tom Cruise, which happens to be my favorite thing.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't believe, like, I think it's a really underrated era for Tom Cruise because I think a lot of people are aware of that like Risky Business, Top Gun, Cocktail, early Tom Cruise, that's an era. Then you've got like that Mission Impossible and Jerry Maguire era in the 90s. And you've got his more modern stuff. But I think that like pretty underrated era of his career to have back-to-back really great sci-fi films. And, excuse me, also the second film in my list that stars Emily Blunt, who's just fantastic. I didn't actually realize, put the pieces together now, but she's something of a sci-fi post-apocalyptic mainstay. And for those that haven't seen the film, it's basically set in the middle of a battle for Earth. So aliens have invaded. A pretty cool version of an alien invasion, actually. And Tom Cruise is just a high-ranking army official who's in PR, so he's there to like spin the war in a positive light. And he actually gets drafted, he gets sent to the front line. So he's a bit of a cowardly figure. And this is in the trailer, so no spoilers here, and it's also nearly a 10-year-old movie.
Yeah, we talked about this one, I think, last week as well. So go through.
Okay.
You definitely
I'm sure I'll just do a poorer job of giving a synopsis. No. I feel like I'm terrible at describing films.
No, it's all good.
And then on his first battle, he, I think, kills, I can't remember exactly, but he wounds one of these, is it called like an alpha or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact name for it, but it's this alien race have the ability to relive a day. And so he basically...
They have Groundhog Day powers, so that's what it is.
Exactly right, yeah. It's basically Alien Invasion Groundhog Day.
Yeah, I should have called it Edge of Groundhog Day.
And then Bill Murray could have made a cameo.
Yeah, he could have been the voice of all the aliens.
So basically, the majority of the story is just Tom Cruise living the same day over, dying a lot of times, and figuring out how to win this war. It's funny. It's an amazing sci-fi film. Like the concepts are really cool. It looks fantastic, and just great performances by like the leads, so like Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt, and then also you've got Brendan Gleeson. I think Noah Taylor's also in this, so it's really, really strong cast. And also the grunts that he serves alongside are also really great as well.
Yeah, one thing I loved about, and I touched on this last week as well, is it's one of the few Tom Cruise films I liked, kind of growing up, definitely during my snobbier period. Because I think we've talked about this a lot in the past about, like, Tom Cruise, actor or movie star, that kind of thing. I always found like a lot of his movies was quite interesting, lacked a bit of substance, because he's always trying to prove how good he is and how young he is. And I loved Edge of Tomorrow because he was not good. Like he was terrible at being a soldier. Like he wasn't meant to be in the war. He got forced in there and he kept dying. And like that to me is vastly more interesting than someone who just goes in and like those Mission Impossible films are wonderful, but Ethan Hunt is, pretty much a machine. Like, he can just do everything. But Edge of Tomorrow was the opposite. So, like, he's not meant to be here. He keeps failing, and like Emily Blunt like has to work with him. She has to relearn who he is every single day, but then like educate him and help him, end the war, because he's kind of the key to it. So it was a really wonderful, kind of change of pace, in a Tom Cruise role. I really enjoyed that. Um, and again, like, I don't mind Tom Cruise being the hero and everything and stuff like that, but I do like a flawed character more. It's the same reason. I think I've talked about this on the show before, but Skyfall is the most interesting Bond film to me, because you're like, James Bond is now in his late 40s, and he doesn't know if he's if he can be a spy anymore, and his body is starting to fall apart, and he's got to try and still overcome it. And the one thing he can't stop is aging, and that's what's kind of holding him back. Um, so I always like that kind of story. And Edge of Tomorrow is the same kind of thing. It's like Tom Cruise, who we've known for years can do anything, now can't do anything, and he has to kind of learn from the ground up, which I think is a much more interesting take on the film for something of his. So yeah, I really dug it.
I think, like, not the perfect film. I think the third act gets a little bit, it drops off in quality a little bit. I think it's like actually kind of hard to see what's going on once they
Is
go
that when
find
they're in the
Alpha
UK and it's like,
yeah. Oh,
so
they're in
yeah, I haven't
France.
seen it in a long time, but I feel like I remember them being
I
in
think
the
they're
UK and trying to navigate like the ground around Big Ben or something. I can't remember exactly what it is.
Nah, I think he is in London, but I think they drop into France. I think
That's right. Yep. But I do remember being very dark. Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. I probably don't have too much more to say about Edge of Tomorrow. Great film.
It's a solid list. Look, I'm looking over your list, and there's a couple. Well, actually, I think there's only one I haven't seen, which is good. Like, definitely one to look forward to. But a couple we've spoken about in the past, but definitely a couple we haven't spoken about yet either, which is really good to see. And they all feel very, very much like Nick Owen picks. I'm thrilled you put World's End in there, because I didn't think anyone would mention the World's End.
Yeah, and I had a few. I've got to be honest. It's not a film genre where I'm like ranking a top five and there's a clear top five. I bought some honorable mentions, which pretty much to a film could have subbed out any of the films I've talked about. So, do you want me to have a
I'd love to
through?
hear honorable mentions. Yeah.
Well, I'm lucky to miss out, and to be honest, I just moved this one out of the top five because I knew someone else would have it. So I figured you'd already talk about it, which is Mad Max Fury Road.
Of course, absolutely. It was on my list, so yeah.
Yeah, it's such a great film, and I think could be the greatest. Yeah, could be the greatest. Could be the greatest post-apocalyptic
really,
film.
really good.
It like hits all of the points I want, which is just like new civilizations that are just fucking bonkers. Like a lack of resources making like things like water and petrol just so valuable. And also like retooled and repurposed old things into new, like the cars and stuff like that. So that's
just visually just gorgeous. Like maybe one of the best looking films ever made. Like just from the guy, and like he'd been working on that character and that kind of universe for decades. Like he kind of created 3 in the 80s, and then he stopped, and then like 30 years later, it's like, all right, I think I got another story to tell, and just came out with, and it was very simple, but just looks and feels exactly what you need that that movie to be. And what I really appreciated with Fury Road is that Mad Max in this film was mad the entire time. Like in the first Mad Max, he's kind of pretty mild Mad Max until about an hour 10, and that's when he gets mad. Like so.
Yeah, very apt. I never thought about him. But it wouldn't be as catchy if it was just like
mildly Mad Max. You get Triple M.
Peeved off Max.
Yeah. Max is annoyed. Yeah.
A few that we've mentioned, Contagion. I think just really great film, scary film, not for reasons of that, like not for like an alien invasion or any jump scares, but just like considering what we have all gone through over the past few years, just a really scary film.
No, definitely, I agree.
This one I really wanted to put in there because I did want to talk about it a little bit. But to be quite frank, I wasn't quite sure if it fit. I think I wasn't sure in my own mind if like weather-related films were post-apocalyptic, but Day After Tomorrow was a big favorite of
Just
mine.
outside of my top 5, loved Day After Tomorrow. Yeah.
Growing up, and that's it's Jake Gyllenhaal, isn't it?
No. Jake Gyllenhaal, Emmy Rossum, Dennis Quaid.
Yeah,
I think it's Roland Emmerich's best film. I haven't seen all of his movies. Like I haven't seen 2012. I haven't seen Geostorm. I haven't seen Moonfall. But I think I've seen just about all of the other ones of his. And I think Day After Tomorrow is his best film.
Yeah, that was a big early DVD for me. Like I think I just got that DVD as a present one year, and for like Christmas or something. So watched it a lot, and great film.
Great flick.
28 Days Later, of course, one of the greatest zombie films. Probably restarted the genre almost this century. I don't know. You might be able to answer that better than I can, but
no, I don't know if it relaunched it, but it definitely gave us a different take on the genre because, like, like people are going to listen to this, like, they're not zombies, they're rage monsters. Like, they're zombies, it's fine. Like, they're human beings that are mindless and no longer what they once were. Like, they fall under the umbrella. 28 Days. Yeah, I think because we had the 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake, which I think came out before 28 Days Later, but around the same time. So we've always had some pretty good zombie films, but I think like those two films really kind of relaunched it because in the 90s it was definitely a lot quieter. The zombie genre we didn't have as much in the 90s. It was kind of like all the 80s and then kind of nothing for a while, and then the 2000s really gave us more. And those two were definitely at the forefront, but both wonderful films. And 28 Days Later, and 28 Weeks Later. I like 28 Weeks Later a lot as well. And Danny Boyle, I think, said in the last year or so that he's still working on 28 Months. So
that would be great. That would be great.
I was just reading online before that they're still developing Edge of Tomorrow too as well. So
cool.
Because that was meant to be a sequel. And it looks like Tom and Emily are still attached. So good for us. Love
that. Very good. And then the final one I had was another light-hearted one. This Is the End, which is
that's come up on every episode. I talked about it on the first one, and then Josh talked about it last week as well.
Yeah, okay, I won't go into too much detail on it, but great comedy. Still to this day, probably one of the funniest movies I've ever gone to see at the cinema.
Agreed.
It makes me miss the golden age of comedies coming out in the cinema, where you'd go and you'd have like a whole cinema full of people just pissing themselves laughing. And
I don't think I've laughed more in a movie in the cinemas than This Is the End. I think it's like, and I was saying this on the last episode, I think it's, the way Infinity War and Endgame were the culmination of everything Marvel was building to. I feel like This Is the End is kind of everything that like those guys were building to with 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up. They're like, we just need people to understand our brand of comedy, and then we can do something really ambitious. Because at the end of the day, like, it is just five guys in a room talking for most of the film, but then you got these great special effects, and you get this really cool dark story, like Danny McBride is so good.
He is so funny, and just like these little they just do a segment in that film where they do Pineapple Express 2.
Yeah,
or like all these cameos that are just like people playing fast and loose with their actual personas, like Michael Cera.
Michael Cera is definitely a winner there. And I can't remember who it is, either Kevin Hart or Aziz Ansari falls down the crack, and they're like, too late, you're already in the hole. Like, there's some really great jokes. And like for a film as filthy as it is, and there's some really great filthy jokes, there's some really wonderful like human moments and just like kind of clean jokes in there as well. Obviously Emma Watson is a great attachment there as well. It's This Is the End is wonderful. It's so good.
Great film.
Came out the same year as World's End as well.
So, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, God, how the hell is 10 years? The last 10 years. I'm not prepared for how quickly that's gone by.
Yeah, I mean, Josh was telling a story last week. He's like, a buddy of his went to go see This Is the End in theaters, but he went to the World's End by mistake because they were out at the same time, and he just kept waiting for Seth Rogen to show up. So, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, that is good.
That's a great list, and I like your honorable mentions a lot as well. Yeah, there's some really good stuff in there, so really digging that. We are going to wrap things up in a moment. We're just about the end of the show. This is probably the shortest episode you've ever been on, because we are working on we are already over time, as I mentioned. But before we go, we have the rapid fire apocalypse question round. There's only 4, so we'll keep it nice and quick for you, and then we'll get the hell out of here. Nick Owen, to begin with, which apocalypse would you most like to be stuck in? So if to choose an apocalypse, which is the one that you're going to be enduring?
Great question. I'm going to go with an I Am Legend style apocalypse, which is mankind's been wiped out by some sort of plague. And as I mentioned a few times, I've got a whole city to just roam around in and do what I want.
Excellent. I mean, it's still pretty scary because there is no one to help you. But you got a dog. You got a dog.
Well, got a dog.
Yeah.
Got a door. Got a gym.
What more do you need? All right. Well, if it was an apocalypse where there were others, which hero would you want to be teamed up with? Who's going to keep you safe in the apocalypse?
And are we talking heroes from these movies we've mentioned?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's someone who's been. So it could be Neo from the Matrix. It could be someone from Mad Max. It could be one of the Avengers from Infinity War or an Endgame.
I'm going to pick Danny McBride from This Is the End.
I mean, he's very selfish, and he did get through quite a bit, didn't he? So it's not a bad pick. He's going to pee on everything, though, and eat all your snacks. Well, it sounds like you don't want snacks anyway. You're using the apocalypse as your own gym, so that's fine. Yeah. Alrighty, we see some pretty cool vehicles in the apocalypse. What's your post-apocalyptic vehicle of choice?
I can't go past that truck with the guitar player on the front of it from Mad Max Fury Road.
It's not inconspicuous, especially in New York when it's full of zombies, but I do love that truck. And then finally, the music of the apocalypse is very important. Like obviously, if it's a more nature-bound one, like Planet of the Apes, it's going to be a lot softer and gentler. If it's Mad Max, it's a guy playing a guitar on the back of a truck. Who's playing the soundtrack to your apocalypse?
That is a great question. I might go with, you just mentioned The Matrix. I'm going to go with The Matrix's 90s, like late 90s techno
Nice.
fight scene music to go in the background. Yeah, that's what I'll go with. Thanks.
Nice. That is a great answer. Nick Owen, that is the end of the rapid fire round. Nice and quick, as I said. And that's the end of our episode. Any final thoughts on the apocalypse before we wrap things up this evening?
No, great choice for a top 5 list because I think it's not a genre that gets a lot of love. We don't shine a light on it too often, but I think through definitely me having to think about my list and hearing about some of the other films that you talked about, like such good like hidden gems and not so hidden gems sitting there to be enjoyed.
It's definitely been the most divisive. This is the first topic we've done on the show since it began over a year ago, where I've had people say no. We're like, I'll skip this one. So it's been interesting. But it is more of a niche, which I like because I like going into those niches and doing, kind of areas that we wouldn't normally jump into, you wouldn't normally expect to go into. So yeah, excellent. Well, that's going to wrap up this week's show. Of course, you can follow me on Instagram. I was a teenage film snob, underscores between every single word. If you'd like to buy some merchandise and support the show, head over to tpublic.com. I think they had 35% off this week, but it might just be back to 20% off now, which is great if you're a first-time customer. And you can buy T-shirts, hoodies, and stickers and put that really cool logo all over everything you wear. And that's going to do it. Next week, we'll be doing more apocalyptic stuff, I believe, or it might be a bit of a special bonus show, but I'll know more when I've recorded it. But until then, I want to thank Nick for being a wonderful guest as always. He'll be back soon. We won't wait so long next time. We'll get him on sooner. And as I say every single episode, guys, I was a teenage film snob, but I'm trying to be better. We'll see you next week.